Hello to all my friends and enemies and anybody out there that cares to take a listen for just a couple of minutes about what I have to say on the topic of real estate. Welcome to the Team Black and Gold show, where every week, hopefully every week, I will update you on one perspective of the current real estate market, what's going on, how I see it as an executive broker in this market, and what I believe the best advice I can give to you to help you navigate it if you're getting into it or thinking about getting into it, help you know what you might be up against in your very near future. I am Blake Yount with Team Black and Gold, husband and wife team with Ashley, and we are brokered by eXp Realty NWA Branch. Phone number 866-720-5056 if you wish to speak directly to the brokerage. Phone number 479-363-4331 if you wish to speak directly with me, or if you want to talk to somebody that most people find more appealing and more pleasant, you can call Ashley at 479-325-9348. One of the only phone numbers in the world I actually have memorized. Okay, without further ado, I want to get into something that's on most people's minds if they're thinking or looking at real estate at all at this point, which is pricing in this changing market. There is no secret that there is more inventory available, and we're seeing a lot of price reductions coming from sellers. And from what I'm hearing from friends and neighbors, the question is always, is the market okay? Is it a good time? I mean, I hear it's kind of rough for you guys right now. And the truth of the matter is that the market is going along just fine. If you are looking to sell in Northwest Arkansas, it is still a wonderful time to get your house out there on the market. You just have to do it correctly. Gone are the days where we can put a sign in the yard and a nice little cell phone picture or something like that. Slap a price tag on it. Any old price tag will do. That's gone. Because buyers don't just come running anymore. They have more options to choose from. So if they come at all, they kind of come walking briskly if you're priced correctly. But there's still a need to present a nice home in exchange for the value that you're asking for. Market it correctly. Have a responsive agent. All of these things have to line up now for you to successfully sell your home for the most amount of money in the least amount of time. And we'll get into that quite a bit. But the number one thing that we have to get right is our pricing. And I want to talk about why. The first real reason why you need to pay attention to and hit the price on the head is because the perception, you only get one chance at your first impression on the market. And the perception has got to be that this house is worth it to me as a buyer. Remember, we are selling to buyers. They don't care what you want to make off the sale of your home or what your next move will be. And I'm sorry if that's a harsh reality, but they just don't care. We have to speak to the buyers, and the very first way we do that is we say, here's the price tag, and this home is well worth your consideration based on that alone. So the location of the home, the neighborhood, the condition, the amenities, everything has to line up with what the buyers in your price range are expecting, or they won't even look at it. If they think it's overpriced, buyers are not even coming to look at a home until later down the road, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But the perception has got to be, oh my goodness, I'm hooked by the price. And what does that mean? That means everybody else in the world is hooked by the perception that this home is worth what it's priced. And guess what? They know that if a home is priced right, they're going to have some competition. So now, because it's perceived as worth what you're putting it out there for, now buyers are going to walk briskly into your home, heavily consider making an offer that day, or maybe 2 days later, 1, 2, 3, 4 days on the market until we get good offers, is what we're seeing with the homes that are priced correctly. Seriously, it's happening that fast still. Everybody says it's not because we're overpricing homes like crazy. Okay, but if we price things right, I've been on both sides of this recently. If we price things right, the perception is still the same, and the psychology of the buyer is, if I love this house, everybody else does. I need to get my offer in first. That's how you want people to feel. You want them to feel hooked by the price, and the rest of it is just confirming their suspicions that, yes, I love this home, so does everybody else. Let's get our offer in at or near full price. And man, if there's another offer, I want to make sure nobody else gets it. Maybe we'll go a little over. That is the power. That is the first power that you have as a seller before you ever go on the market. You can say, okay, I'm going to price this thing in a way that's going to hook a buyer and get them in and get them on the easiest terms that we can get. So moving on to the next point about this is a correctly priced home that elicits a quick offer. Like I said, in this market, I said 2, 3, 4 days. That's been the truth. But let's just stretch it out a little bit. A week or less is normally what you can see. Every home's a little different. We need to do our homework as agents and convey this information to you relevant to your property. Okay, there might be some areas where it takes 2 or 3 weeks. You might be priced right, okay, but it might take 10 days to get the offer on average. That's neither here nor there. However, some of these principles remain the same. So we price it right, we get that buyer hooked, and what that does, if you get a quick offer on your terms, that gives you time, giving you control over your own affairs. Meaning, let's explore it from the opposite side. If you decide, if an agent tells you that I think your house can sell for this much in this amount of time, and you say, well, neighbor Jim and my mom called and they think that we can sell it for $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 more, so I want to start there because people are going to lowball you anyway. I hear it all the time. It's not right, but I hear it, and that's the perception. So let's say you go ahead and you still want to have your home overpriced to give yourself a little wiggle room. Well, in this market, because buyers have more choices, it's kind of balanced out. Because they have more choices, they'll see it, they'll put a pin in it, and they'll wait for it to come down to where it probably should have been in the first place. And what does that mean? So usually people are selling their house because they have to move on to another place. Maybe they're building their dream home. Maybe they are maybe you got a job transfer and you have to be out. Maybe it's 90 days away, so you think you have time to kind of play the market a little bit. Whatever it may be, selling a home is usually tied to something else that's going on in somebody's lives. This is why we take it so seriously as professionals, that we're not just helping you buy and sell homes. We're helping you move on to the next stage in your life, whatever that is. And we want to make that go as smoothly as possible for you. It can't always be easy, but we want to make it so that you are fully informed and that you're comfortable with the process and that you know what's going on and that you're in control with the best information you can get. That's our job, is to give you the best information and advice that you can get anywhere on the planet. Okay? So let's say it's a job transfer and you have 90 days to get there. Well, if you decide to play a game with the price for 45 to 60 days, you've given up all that time. And what does that mean? That means you finally, 45 to 60 days later, you finally get into the price range where you should, and now you only have 30 to 45 days to get your deal done. Now you are under pressure, not the buyer, but you, and that gets into leverage, okay? But you give up that time, which puts you under pressure to perform. So now you're more apt to take a lower price deal. You're going to work with buyers that want more repairs and credits for repairs and things of that nature. You are now under pressure, and you don't want that at all. And that is the next little piece. By giving up time, by being overpriced, you're giving up your time, which is giving away your leverage, which to me is the biggest thing about getting that home priced right off the bat. Is you want to have all of that leverage on your side to where you're like, yeah, I've got something I'm moving on to, but it's a ways down the road still. If this one doesn't work out, I know that where we're priced, we can go back on the market and we can get another buyer, because we still have upwards of around 40 people a day moving to Northwest Arkansas. And while they have more options, it is still a seller's market in the scenario that you price your home right, okay? Don't let anybody tell you different until that changes, okay? And I would be the first one to say, okay, it's flipped and now it's a buyer's market. It's still a seller's market if you come out with a great price. You will get terms that you want at a price that you love, and you will be able to dictate the process because you will not have given away your time, which translates into your leverage in this market as a seller. And when you have leverage, that means that you get more of what you want and less of what you don't want, which I think as a seller of a property is what you would really be interested in, is getting as much of what you want out of the deal. Okay, so and that leads to the other thing, because right now I've been pretty seller focused and telling you how you're going to have all these advantages over the buyer. But the reality is, if you come out at a good price, buyers are very well informed right now. They know what they're looking for, and they know what they're looking at as far as their prices go. And they've been comparing things here and there. You want to stand out with your price. You want to stand out against your competition. That's very important. A good agent will walk you through that at a listing appointment. But the value trade, this is very important to remember, that your buyer is your equal partner in this transaction. Okay? We're not out here trying to get something over on somebody else. We are offering something for sale where the buyer sees that they are getting an equal trade out of it for what they are giving you. So they are giving you money and you are providing them a house. Okay? So the value trade has to be there, and both parties believe they're getting a fair deal, which, what does that translate to you as a seller? It's less hassle, more freedom to work within the confines of the deal, and less complications when it comes to actually closing the deal, getting your proceeds, and then beyond. If the buyer perceives the entire time that they are getting a fair deal, they are much less likely to look for little tiny things and loopholes and things that they could come back to you with at the end of the sale and after the sale. They're going to look at this thing and say, man, I got a great deal. The seller got a great deal. We're in a great home. We love this. And that's it. Everybody moves on and they're happy with it. So the value trade, the fair value trade, where the deal goes smoothly and people come away from it feeling pretty good. You might not have got everything you wanted. The buyer probably didn't get everything they wanted, but everybody comes away saying that we made a good deal. And that leads to the satisfaction of coming away with a good feeling about the big thing in your life that just happened. And how many times can something so big, like a sale of a home and a move maybe to another state, or maybe far away, or maybe a kid goes to college, whatever it is that's inducing the sale of the home, it is a big thing, and it's nerve-wracking, and it can be difficult, and there's all kinds of questions that you can't even conceptualize right now because you're not in the middle of it, but they're going to come up, and it's going to cause some kind of stress. But if you can get through all of that at a good value trade with a buyer, and you guys can both have the satisfaction of doing a good deal, you're going to come away feeling really good about what you've done. And that is, you can't put a price tag on that. You really can't. And that's something that people sometimes lose track of, and you can't. It's something like that you can't put a price on. Okay, you're getting that kind of value out of correctly pricing your home to begin with. Those are all of the things that you get when you price your home correctly. You get control over the timing of everything. You maintain almost all of the leverage because, again, we are in a seller's market in the scenario where the seller is priced correctly. So you have the time, you have the leverage, you have eager buyers right off the bat, okay? And then you have the fair value trade where everybody's happy with the deal, less complications, more satisfaction. Now, doesn't that sound nice? I think it does. And let me tell you, when you're in working for somebody and things go smoothly like the way I've described, there is no better feeling than that for everybody involved. Okay, so very important that we do that. So the last thing before we go, if you are a seller currently, or you're going to be, how do you know in the first place if your home is priced correctly? Well, it's very easy to tell in this market because one of three things can happen. If you are priced correctly, you will go on the market, and within days you will have multiple showings. You will have very good feedback, people saying, yeah, we're interested, we're going to make an offer, and you'll get one, maybe two, maybe three offers at or around on either side full price. That is one thing that can happen, and that is what's happening if your home is priced correctly. That's what's happening all over this market, okay? Except maybe out in Eureka Springs where there's so much inventory. Eureka Springs is its own kind of animal, but that's another story. But it does have its numbers to help people out there understand where they're at and what's going to happen. You always rely on the data, okay? So, but that's one of three things that can happen is multiple showings, one or more offers at or near what you want to begin with. And those are the buyers that you want because they're the most eager. They probably don't have a contingency. If they do, the contingency is almost fulfilled already. They probably aren't going to ask you very much in terms of concessions, and they're going to be nicer on the inspection process than the next set of buyers, which we'll get into. Because the second thing that can happen is you will get a good trickle of showings if you're nearly priced correctly, but you're a little overpriced. You'll get a decent, amount of showings, one here, one there. You'll get some feedback that's a little bit tepid, not really committed, like, they like this, whatever. Giving you a little bit of feedback that you can work with and figure out what you need to change. Maybe it's the same thing over and over again, a certain aspect of the property, maybe you can work on it, fix it with tools, or maybe it's something about the property that can't be worked on and fixed, so the only thing you can deal with is price. But a slightly overpriced property will still garner a little bit of interest. And when I say slightly overpriced, I'm talking $5,000 to $10,000, okay? We're not talking big numbers here. You can't overprice it by $25,000, $35,000, $50,000 and expect these educated buyers to come look at your home when they have other things to choose from that are the same or better and available for less. I mean, what are we doing? Why would we think any different? On the other side, you're also a buyer, and you don't want to go look at something that that person wants more than it's worth for. Like, you just don't even want to go look at it, mainly because most of us are good people, and we don't want to offend that other person by putting in what would be perceived as a low offer, even though it might be right in line with the market. So anyway, the second set of circumstances that could happen would be low amount of showings, very tepid feedback, maybe some overlap, give you an idea what you can do with that. If you fall into that scenario and you don't respond to that kind of activity within 2 weeks, 10 days to 2 weeks, you run the risk of losing that first wave of buyers where your most enthusiastic people are. They will move on to something else. They're ready to make offers. They're qualified. They're ready to go. They're serious buyers. You run the risk of not capturing any of those, and now you're going to end up with some buyers that are a little bit more discerning, a little more picky. They probably have a contingency, maybe just about to go on the market, but it's not that they're just dipping their toe in it, but they're not hot and ready like the buyer that you want to keep the time and leverage scale tipped in your favor, okay? So the third thing that can happen, you go on the market, you're sitting around for a week and you're getting crickets, maybe a showing, maybe two, but that's it, and really hard to get feedback out of anybody, hard to get any information to help you out. That's how you know you've overshot your market, because the data says that it doesn't make sense for a home available in Northwest Arkansas to be sitting there with nobody looking at it or telling you anything. And if you don't respond to that, quickly and get to where you should be price-wise, you have lost the hot and ready buyer, you have lost the buyer that's getting into the market but not quite as hot and ready, and now you are going to deal with the people that are just sitting back and waiting for their opportunity. And guess what those people are? They don't have to buy, they're not in a hurry, they want a bargain, they're going to make an offer, they're going to wait for you to come down anyway, and when you do finally get to where you should have been priced, they're going to lowball that, okay? So, and then during the inspection process, they're probably going to keep going after you because they know that you were selling this house for a reason, and you're probably a lot closer to that reason now than you were 2-3 months ago. So you are really dealing with the buyers that want a deal, and they're going to get a deal or they're not going to close. That is the worst case scenario for you as a seller, and that is what we try to get our sellers to avoid by bringing you not just our opinions on pricing and time on market and things like that, but the data to back it up. And sometimes there's a bit of an art form to it where it's a unique situation, and we might not have one-to-one data that we can just point to and say that's it. But we will still paint you a full picture and then say, based on our experience and the competition that's out there, this is where we think your home's going to be very competitive price-wise, and this is why. Look at this, look at that. We'll walk you through all of that so that you can see why we want to price your home the way you want to price it. And then ultimately it's your sale, but we will tell you that one of three things can happen, which we just went through. Okay, so the importance of pricing your home right cannot be overstated, but I will end this video here because I think I've got the point across. If you're looking at going on the market and you do not have an agent, Ashley and I, Team Black and Gold, would absolutely love to be at least among the options that you consider. We will put every bit of effort that we can into getting you the result that you desire on your timeline and as close to the price as is possible that you're wanting to put out there. So, okay, once again, thank you to all my friends. Good day to all my enemies. And lovely for all of you showing up and hearing me out at least a little bit on the importance of pricing your home correctly as a seller in Northwest Arkansas. All right, we'll see you next time, and please do share with your friends.